Since Ibrahim Traore came into the geopolitical scene of the Sahel, he has been changing the order of things. From his words and speeches to his actions, Traore has shown that he is a dedicated and committed leader that places the sovereignty and independence of his country above anything else. Last year, Ibrahim Traore, together with the leaders of Mali and Niger, proposed the idea of ditching the CFA Franc, a colonial remnant, and creating a common currency. These leaders believe that abandoning the CFA Franc would be a sign of sovereignty and a necessary step and move from French colonization. But has anything been done since then to make this proposal a reality? Well, recent news reveals that Captain Traore has just taken a move in that direction that will make the creation of a new currency a reality. So, what move did he make? Recently, Traore established a Treasury deposit bank. For some people, this does not seem an interesting news, but the fact is that it is an important development and has set the stage for the process of ditching the CFA Franc. You see, despite the fact that colonialism ended decades ago, Francophone countries are still affected by the systems and establishments made during the colonial era by the colonial masters. One such area is monetary. The CFA Franc was created in 1954 as a currency for all its African colonies, and France used this currency to maintain significant economic and political influence over Africa because it had control over the currency's convertibility and monetary policy. This means that with the aid of the CFA Franc, France could manipulate the money supply, interest rates, and currency valuation across Francophone Africa, all the way from Paris. In addition to this, France also controlled the money reserve of Francophone Africa because Francophone Africa was required to at first put 100% of their money reserve in France's bank. Later on, it changed to 70%, and it is currently 50%. So, this means that unlike other African countries that has central banks which regulate the monetary system of the country, Francophone African countries don't have central banks. What exists is the Central Bank of West African States, which operates as an extension of the Bank of France. So, the situation was, Francophone Africa couldn't print or issue currency. They couldn't control monetary policy without approval from France, and they had to keep half of their money reserves with France. Like General Tiani once said, money is a sign of sovereignty, and we are engaged in a process of recovering our total sovereignty. It is no longer a question of our states being the cash cow of France. So, Traore's recent establishment of a Treasury deposit bank is a fantastic move because Burkina Faso will no longer have to depend on the Central Bank of West African State, which is a colonial relic, to store its reserves or regulate its monetary and financial system. With this Treasury deposit, Burkina Faso will no longer have to deposit 50% of its reserves in a French bank. The establishment of the Treasury Deposit Bank empowers Burkina Faso to conduct financial transactions independently, bypassing the need to go through the Central Bank of West African States and thereby eliminating any potential interference from France. As you can see, this initiative sets the stage for the eventual elimination of the CFA Franc. With the Treasury Deposit Bank, Burkina Faso will be able to manage the gradual transition from the CFA Franc to a new currency. If Burkina Faso is taking this step, there is no doubt that the other countries in the AES will soon follow suit because they share the same ideology. Recall that in September 2023, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso signed the Liptako Gourma Charter, establishing a new alliance called the Alliance of the Sahel State, which laid the foundation for establishing a confederation between the three countries. Initially, it was established as a defense pact for the three countries to pool their military resources to fight rebel or jihadist groups. However, it was later revealed by President Traore that the alliance would evolve from a defense union to a true economic, monetary, and political union that counters the ECOWAS bloc. In November of the same year, the finance ministers of the three states issued a joint statement recommending the creation of a committee of experts to study the issue of economic union and monetary union. Since Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso revealed their news to the world, there have been huge debates about the implications of this decision. Some experts have warned that dumping the CFA Franc is a mistake And it will be risky and significantly complicated because apparently the CFA Franc, a currency pegged to the euro, provides macroeconomic stability to every francophone country that uses it. But is this really true? Defenders of the currency praise its credibility and stability and point out that no CFA member has experienced a major financial crisis. Well, this may be true, but the fact is that African countries are paying dearly for this so-called stability that the currency brings. First, think about the fact that every CFA member country is required to deposit at least 50% of its foreign exchange reserves, which is currently about 10 billion euros, into a special account in the French Treasury. And in return, France guarantees the unlimited convertibility of CFA francs into euros. But does this make any sense? Why would an independent country have to deposit half of its foreign reserve in the bank of another country? As Malian economist Chekna Bunajim Sisi says, it makes no economic sense, and in our opinion, it's just a way for France to continue to exercise control over its former colonies. Another effect of using the CFA franc is that it artificially raises the price of African goods. Unlike other African countries that can use their currency rates to influence their economy, CFA countries cannot independently do that. They do not have control over their currency, meaning that if they wish to devalue their currency to increase exports, they would have to wait for France to do so. And since the CFA franc is tied to the strong euro, their prices are automatically higher. This not only reduces the competitiveness of their economies, it also favors imports from countries with weak currencies, like China. The import of finished products, in turn, limits the industrialization of CFA zone members and makes them more dependent than they already are on exporting raw commodities. So, who really benefits from the CFA franc? Defenders of the CFA franc claim that the use of the currency in Francophone Africa has made the inflation rate in this region to be low compared to other places in Africa. This may be true, but the result of this so-called low inflation is a weak economy and the creation of fewer jobs. The reason for this is that the stability of the currency attracts foreign investors but stifles local production. So, in simple terms, the CFA franc is a good currency only for those who benefit from it, namely the major French and overseas corporations, the executives of the zone's central banks, the elites wishing to repatriate wealth acquired legally or otherwise, and heads of state unwilling to upset France. This is the reason why the revolutionary governments of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have made it known that they intend to put an end, in the coming months of 2024, to the colonial fiscal agreements concluded decades ago with France. So, Burkina Faso's newly established Treasury Deposit Bank is a step in the right direction and reflects Traore's desire to completely break free from the West. It is quite unfortunate that most African leaders prefer to break under the pressure of the West and allow themselves to be treated as puppets in the interest of the West. But leaders like the military juntas of the Sahel, who have been called sophisticated by the US military, give the continent hope that things will be better with time. Now, as awesome as this news is, no Western media has published this news. We did a lot of research and observed that only a few media houses, which are mainly from Africa, and the local Burkinabe TV station carried this news. The question is, why? Well, we can't understand their reason, but what is very clear to us now is that Western media loves to publish negative news about African countries. The purpose of this is to paint a narrative that Africa is dependent, needs help, and can only manage to survive with help from the West. When it comes to relations between African countries and the West, the media loves to paint the West as the superior being capable of helping Africa. This is wrong. It seems that it's only when there is news of a coup, an attempt to assassinate Traore, or attacks from insurgents that killed lots of people, that's when these Western media houses publish stuff about President Traore. It's like they are eagerly waiting to hear that Traore has been removed from power, but thankfully so far, nothing of such has occurred. Never have we heard the BBC and the others talk about the gold refinery that is being built, the tomato factory that is under construction, or the security measures that are being put in place. Shame on them. But regardless, we are ready to push the narrative that Africa is independent and is capable of self-governance. What are your thoughts? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.